I want a divorce, Walter said, leaning back in his leather chair like he'd just announced he was buying a new car instead of ending 43 years of marriage. I looked up from my coffee, steam still rising from the cup. We were sitting in our downtown Chicago apartment, the one we'd moved into 5 years ago after selling our family home. Through the window, Lake Michigan stretched out gray and endless, matching the color of my husband's eyes, cold, distant, calculating. "All right," I said simply. He blinked. "All right?" "Yes, Walter. All right." I took another sip of my coffee, watching confusion ripple across his face. This wasn't how he'd expected this to go. I could practically see the script crumbling in his mind. "Just like that?" His voice rose slightly. "You're not going to fight me?" "No." I set down my cup and reached for my purse, pulling out a thick manila envelope. "But before we proceed, there's something you should have." I slid it across our dining table, the same table where we'd hosted Sunday dinners for decades, where our children had done homework, where we'd celebrated birthdays and grieved losses. His hand trembled slightly as he picked it up. "What's this?" he asked, already tearing it open. I watched his face as he pulled out the documents, watched the color drain from his cheeks, watched his mouth fall open, watched his eyes go wide with something between horror and disbelief. "That," I said calmly, "is the demolition bill for our vacation house. $500,000. Your half is due within 30 days. The envelope slipped from his fingers. Papers scattering across the table like fallen leaves. You demolished our house?" "I did." "The lakeside property? Our vacation home?" "That's the one." His face turned purple. "Vivian, that house was worth $2 million. How could you—" "Oh, I know exactly what it was worth, Walter. That's why I did it." Before we continue, please tell us where you're watching from so we know how far our stories reach, and subscribe to the channel to help us grow. Let me take you back to where this all began, because nothing happens in a vacuum, and betrayal doesn't grow overnight. It's more like mold. It starts small, in the dark, feeding on whatever rot is already there. My name is Vivian Harper, and I'm 72 years old. I've lived a full life, not always an easy one, but full nonetheless. I grew up in Southside Chicago in the 1950s, daughter of a postal worker and a school teacher. My parents taught me 3 things: work hard, save your money, and never let anyone make you feel small. I met Walter Freeman at a church social in 1981. I was 29, working as a bank teller, and starting to accept that maybe marriage wasn't in the cards for me. Then Walter walked in wearing a navy suit that looked like it cost more than my monthly rent, and when he smiled at me, I felt something shift in my chest. He was 32, an accountant at a mid-sized firm, ambitious and charming. He courted me properly, took me to nice restaurants, met my parents, showed up at church every Sunday. 6 months later, we were married at Grace Baptist, and I thought I'd found my forever. We had 2 children. Our daughter, Janelle, came first. Then our son, Terrell. I left the bank to raise them, and Walter's career took off. By the time the kids were in high school, he'd made partner at his firm. We'd moved from our modest 2-bedroom apartment to a beautiful house in Hyde Park. Money was good. Life was good. Or so I thought. 20 years into our marriage, Walter came home excited about an investment opportunity, a lakeside property up in Wisconsin, Lake Country he called it. 3 acres, beautiful views, potential to build something special. "It'll be our legacy," he said, spreading blueprints across our kitchen counter. "Somewhere for the kids and grandkids to make memories." I loved the idea. We'd both worked so hard, and the thought of having a family gathering place felt like the American dream realized. So we did it. We bought the land, built a stunning 5-bedroom house with a wraparound porch and a dock stretching into the lake. We paid for it outright. No mortgage, no debt. That was important to Walter. "Never owe anyone anything," he always said. The house was in both our names, 50-50, just like everything else in our marriage. For years, it was perfect. Summer weekends, we'd drive up with the kids. Later, with the grandkids. There'd be barbecues and fishing trips, s'mores by the fire pit, and laughter echoing off the water. Those were good years. But time has a way of revealing truth. It started small. Walter began taking more business trips, working late more often. He was 67, nearing retirement, but suddenly busier than ever. I didn't think much of it. He'd always been a hard worker. Then came the distance. Not physical, but emotional. Like a light dimming so slowly you don't notice until you're sitting in darkness. Our 40th anniversary came and went with a dinner at a restaurant where he checked his phone more than he looked at me. Our daughter noticed first. "Mama, is Daddy okay?" Janelle asked during one of our weekly calls. "He seems different." "He's just stressed about retirement planning," I told her. I told myself the same thing. The truth came crashing down on a Tuesday morning 6 months ago. I'd made Walter's favorite breakfast, salmon croquettes, grits, and eggs. He barely touched it, pushing food around his plate like a child avoiding vegetables. "Vivian, we need to talk," he said finally. My heart sank. Those 5 words never led anywhere good. "I think we should sell the vacation house." I set down my fork. "Why would we do that? It's just sitting there most of the year. It's wasteful. We could use the money." "Use it for what? We're fine financially, and the kids love that place. Terrell just took his family up there last month." Walter's jaw tightened. "I've made up my mind. I want to sell. We built that house together. It's not just your decision." "I'm the one who paid for most of it," he snapped. That stopped me cold. In 40-plus years of marriage, Walter had never thrown money in my face. I'd been a homemaker, raised our children, managed our household. It was a partnership, or so I'd believed. "What did you just say?" My voice came out quiet, dangerous. He had the grace to look ashamed, but only for a moment. "I'm just saying, legally, I have as much right to that property as you do. And I think we should sell." Something in his tone, in the way he said legally, set off alarm bells. That night, after he'd gone to bed, I did something I'd never done before. I looked through his phone. I wish I hadn't. I wish I could have kept living in ignorance. But once you open that door, you can't close it again. Her name was Simone. No, wait, that was too common. Let me think. Her name was Kendra, 39 years old according to her profile. Messages going back 18 months. Plans to finally be together. References to our house by the lake. Our house. The one we'd built. The one that held my memories. My children's memories. My grandchildren's memories. He was planning to divorce me and take the house, give it to her, start fresh at 68 with a woman young enough to be his daughter. I sat in the dark living room, phone in hand, feeling something crack open in my chest. Not my heart. That had gone numb. Something deeper. Something that had been holding me together for 43 years. I thought about my parents, about the lessons they'd taught me. Never let anyone make you feel small. The next morning, I called my cousin Raymond. He'd retired from his law practice 5 years ago, but he still kept connections. "Ray, I need a favor," I said. "I need the name of the best demolition company you know, and I need a lawyer who specializes in marital property." "Viv, what's going on?" "Walter wants a divorce. He wants the vacation house. I'm going to give it to him." "Good, let him have it. You'll get half the sale price and you can—" "No, Ray, you don't understand. I'm going to give him exactly what he wants." "The house. All of it." There was a long pause. Then Raymond started laughing. "Oh, Vivian, I always knew you had steel in your spine. Tell me what you need." The demolition company was expensive. $500,000 to tear down a $2 million house, dispose of the materials, and grade the property. They asked if I was sure. Multiple times. I signed the contract with a steady hand. The lawyer was even better. Her name was Tamara Robinson, a sister from the South Side who'd built her practice on helping women protect themselves. "Here's what's going to happen," she explained in her office downtown. "Illinois is an equitable distribution state. That house is marital property. If he files for divorce and pushes for the house in the settlement, he could very well get it, especially if he argues he can buy you out." But, I leaned forward, but if the house doesn't exist anymore, there's nothing to fight over. And any debts incurred on marital property during the marriage are joint responsibility. I smiled for the first time in weeks. So the demolition bill would be split 50-50, assuming you can document that you had authority to make the decision as co-owner. "I have all the original documents. My name is on everything." Tamara smiled back. "Then let's make sure your husband gets exactly what he's been asking for." The demolition took 3 days. I went up to watch, said my private goodbyes to the memories, and felt absolutely nothing as the walls came down. The crew was professional, efficient. They'd seen it all before: divorces, bankruptcies, family feuds. They didn't judge. "You want us to save anything?" the foreman asked. "Some people like to keep a piece." "No," I said. "Take it all." I kept the demolition quiet. Didn't tell Walter. Didn't tell the kids. Just went about my normal routine, cooking dinners, attending church, playing cards with my sister and her friends every Thursday night. 3 weeks later, the final bill came. I'd already paid half, $250,000, pulling it from my private accounts, money I'd saved and inherited over the years. The other half was Walter's problem. I had the bill delivered to our apartment on a Monday morning, along with a note: "Your portion of the vacation house as requested, payment due in 30 days. Then I waited. Walter came home that evening with a strange look on his face. "Did you do something to the house?" "I gave it to you, Tom, like you wanted." "Vivian, what does that mean?" "It means it's yours, Walter. All yours." He stared at me for a long moment, then pulled out his phone. I watched him dial, watched him pace while it rang, then watched his face crumble. "It's gone," he whispered. "The whole house is gone. There's nothing there but empty land and rubble." "I know." "You destroyed it. You destroyed our house." "No, honey. I gave you what you wanted. You said you wanted the house. Now you have it. What's left of it, anyway?" That's when he said it. The words he'd been building up to for months, maybe years. "I want a divorce." Which brings us back to this morning. To him sitting across from me, demolition bill in hand, face purple with rage. "You're insane," he hissed. "You've lost your mind." "Have I?" I stood up, collecting my coffee cup. "You wanted the house, Walter. You wanted to divorce me and give our home to your girlfriend. Kendra, right? The paralegal from your firm?" His face went white. "How did you think I'm stupid? You think 43 years of marriage made me blind?" I walked to the sink, rinsed my cup, dried it, put it away. Routine motions while my world burned down around me. I know everything, every text, every plan, every lie. "Vivian, let me explain." "No." I turned to face him. "You don't get to explain. You don't get to apologize. You wanted a divorce? Fine, you've got one. But you're going to pay for that house, Walter. Every single penny of your half." "I don't have $500,000 just sitting around." "Then I suggest you figure it out. Because the demolition company has already placed a lien on the property, and they will come after you for payment. We're both legally responsible, but I've already paid my share. That bill has your name on it now." He grabbed the papers, scanning frantically. "This can't be legal. You can't just demolish property without permission from both owners? I had it. My name is on the deed, 50-50, remember? I had every legal right to hire that company, and you have every legal obligation to pay your share." Walter's phone rang. He looked at the screen, and I saw panic flash across his face before he answered. "Hey, sweetheart. No, now's not a great time. Can I call you back?" I couldn't hear Kendra's response, but I could imagine it. Questions about when he was leaving his wife, about when they could finally be together, about the house they were going to share. The house that was now a vacant lot with a 6-figure bill attached. "I have to go," Walter said into the phone, then hung up. He looked at me with something between hatred and desperation. "What do you want, Vivian? You want me to stay? You want me to call it off?" "No, Walter. I want you to live with your choices. I want you to explain to your girlfriend why you're $250,000 in debt. I want you to figure out how to pay that bill while also paying for a divorce lawyer. And most of all, I want you out of my apartment by the end of the week." "This is my apartment too." "Actually, it's not." I pulled another envelope from my purse. This one smaller. "I met with a real estate attorney last month. This apartment is in my name only. I inherited the down payment from my mother, and I've been making the payments from my personal accounts. You've been living here as my guest." His hands were shaking now. "You can't do this." "I already did." The doorbell rang. We both froze. Walter looked at me. I looked at the door. "Are you expecting someone?" he asked. I walked to the door and opened it. 2 men in suits stood in the hallway, badges already out. "Mrs. Vivian Harper?" the taller one asked. "Yes?" "I'm Detective Morris. This is Detective Chen. We need to speak with Walter Freeman. Is he here?" My blood ran cold, but I kept my face calm. "He is. May I ask what this is about?" "Ma'am, we have a warrant for Mr. Freeman's arrest on charges of embezzlement and fraud." Behind me, I heard something shatter. I turned to see Walter on his feet, the coffee pot in pieces on the floor. "That's not possible," he whispered. "That's not... How did you..." And then, like dominoes falling, I understood. The money troubles he'd mentioned. The sudden desire to sell the house. The stress he'd been under. Walter hadn't just been planning to leave me for a younger woman. He'd been stealing from his firm, and he needed money to cover his tracks. The house he wanted wasn't a love nest. It was collateral, liquidation, a way to run, and I'd just demolished his escape plan. Detective Morris stepped into our apartment while his partner read Walter his rights. I stood there, frozen, watching my husband of 43 years get handcuffed in our living room like a common criminal. "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." "Vivian." "Call Raymond," Walter pleaded as they led him toward the door. "Call my lawyer, please. This is all a misunderstanding." I said nothing, just watched them take him away. When the door closed, I stood in the silence for a long moment. The coffee pot was still shattered on the floor, brown liquid seeping into the grout between tiles. 43 years of marriage, and it ended with broken glass and handcuffs. My phone rang. Janelle. "Mama, I just saw the news alert. They're saying Daddy was arrested for embezzlement. Please tell me it's not true. Please tell me there's been some mistake." I sank into the nearest chair. "Baby, I don't know what to tell you. The police just took him away." "Oh my God. Oh my God. Mama, what happened? What's going on?" "I don't know the details yet, but Janelle..." I closed my eyes. "Your father asked me for a divorce this morning." Silence. Then, "What?" "He wants out. He's been seeing someone else. Her name is Kendra." My daughter started crying. Not soft tears, but deep, wrenching sobs that broke something in me. No, Daddy wouldn't do that. Not to you, not to us." "I'm sorry, baby. How long have you known?" "About the affair? 6 months. About the embezzlement? About 5 minutes." "6 months?" Her voice went sharp. "You knew for 6 months and didn't tell me?" "I was handling it." "Handling it? Mama, our family is falling apart." Our family fell apart the moment your father decided to betray everything we built. I'm just the one who refused to pretend it wasn't happening. We talked for another hour. She wanted to come over, but I told her no. I needed time to think, to process, to figure out what came next. After we hung up, I called Raymond. "I saw the news," he said before I could speak. "Walter's arrest is all over the legal community. Vivian, did you know about the embezzlement?" "No, I knew about the affair. I knew he wanted the house, but I didn't know about this." "They're saying it's bad. Over $1 million, funneled through fake accounts over 3 years." My stomach dropped. $1 million? Maybe more. They're still investigating. Raymond, if he's convicted, will I be liable for any of it? Not criminally, but civil suits? That's different. You need to protect yourself, Viv. Fast. The next few days were a blur. Walter made bail. His brother posted it, not me. He wasn't allowed to contact me directly due to a restraining order I'd filed. Tamara, my lawyer, had insisted. "Trust me," she said. "The moment a spouse gets arrested, you protect yourself first. Ask questions later." The media picked up the story. "Prominent Chicago accountant arrested for embezzlement." They didn't name me, but it didn't matter. Everyone in our circle knew who Walter Freeman's wife was. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Church members, friends, neighbors. Everyone wanted to know if I was okay, if I needed anything, if the rumors were true. Sunday morning, I almost didn't go to church. Grace Baptist had been my spiritual home for 30 years, but I thought about my mother, about her steel spine, and I put on my best dress and my grandmother's pearls and walked in with my head high. The sanctuary went quiet when I entered. All those eyes on me, pitying, curious, judging. Pastor Williams was preaching about Job, about suffering and faith. I wondered if he'd chosen the sermon for me. After service, Sister Geneva approached me. She was 81, had been married 3 times, buried 2 husbands and divorced the 3rd. If anyone understood complicated marriages, it was her. "Vivian Harper, you come here," she commanded, pulling me into a hug that smelled like cocoa butter and peppermint. "Don't you dare let these folks make you feel ashamed. Your husband's sins are his own." "Thank you, Sister Geneva." "Now you listen to me. I've lived too long and seen too much to sugarcoat things. That man of yours is going to try to drag you down with him. Men always do when they're drowning. You keep your head up and protect yourself." "I'm trying." "Trying isn't enough. You fight. You hear me? You fight for what's yours." Other women gathered around, Sister Marlene, Sister Rochelle, Mother Patricia, a circle of Black women who'd survived their own trials, their own betrayals. They didn't offer empty platitudes. They offered strength. "My ex tried to clean out our accounts during our divorce," Sister Marlene said. "Tamara Robinson saved me. You working with her?" "I am." "Good. She's the best. Don't let her go, no matter what Walter offers in settlement." Mother Patricia squeezed my hand. "You staying in that apartment alone?" "Yes." "No, you're not. My daughter's got a spare room. You're coming to stay with us until this settles." "I couldn't impose." "Baby, you're not imposing. You're accepting help. There's a difference." That afternoon, I packed a bag and moved into Mother Patricia's daughter's house in Bronzeville. Her name was Kennedy, a school teacher, divorced, with 2 teenage sons. She welcomed me like family. "My mama told me what happened," Kennedy said, showing me to the guest room. "I just want you to know you're safe here. Stay as long as you need." "Thank you. I'll pay rent, of course." "Ms. Vivian, please. You just focus on taking care of yourself." That night, lying in an unfamiliar bed in an unfamiliar room, I let myself cry for the first time. Not for Walter, not for our marriage, but for the woman I'd been 6 months ago, who still believed in happy endings. The next week, Tamara called me into her office. "We need to talk about Walter's case," she said, spreading documents across her desk. "The prosecutor's office has been in touch. They want to know if you have any information about your husband's financial activities. I don't. He handled all of our investments, our retirement accounts. I trusted him. That's what I told them. But Vivian, there's something you need to know. They're investigating whether any of the embezzled funds were used for marital expenses. My blood went cold. What does that mean? It means if they can prove that money Walter stole was used to pay for things you benefited from, your apartment, your car, vacations, anything, you could be forced to repay it. But I didn't know. I believe you. But the law doesn't care about what you knew. It cares about who benefited. I thought about our life. The nice apartment. The new car Walter bought me 3 years ago. The cruise we took to celebrate our 40th anniversary. How much could they come after me for? Tamara's expression was grim. Potentially hundreds of thousands. Maybe more. I don't have that kind of money. The demolition already cost me everything I'd saved. I know. That's why we need to be strategic. The good news is, the demolition actually works in your favor. How? Because it shows you were acting independently, making financial decisions without Walter. It establishes that you weren't complicit in his schemes. You were protecting your assets from a spouse you suspected was planning to defraud you. I didn't know about the embezzlement when I ordered the demolition. No, but you knew something was wrong. You knew he was hiding things, acting suspicious. That's enough to establish reasonable cause for your actions. Over the next few weeks, the full scope of Walter's crimes emerged. He'd been stealing from his firm's clients for 3 years. Small amounts at first, but escalating. Elderly clients, mostly, people who trusted him with their retirement accounts. The irony wasn't lost on me. Walter had stolen from people like us, like me, seniors who'd worked their whole lives and just wanted security in their final years. The news hit our children hard, but in different ways. Janelle was devastated. She called me every day, sometimes multiple times, trying to make sense of it. How did we not see it, Mama? How did we not know? Because we loved him. Love makes us blind sometimes. Terrell's reaction was different, angrier. I can't believe him, he said when he finally came to see me at Kennedy's house. I defended him. When you demolished the lake house, I thought you'd lost your mind. I told Janelle you were being spiteful and vindictive. Did you? I kept my voice neutral. Yeah, I did. And I was wrong. Mama, I'm so sorry. You knew something was wrong and we should have trusted you. You trusted your father. That's not a crime. It feels like one now. He sat down heavily on the couch. Kendra called me. My head snapped up. What? Walter's girlfriend. She called me crying, saying she didn't know he was married when they started seeing each other. Said she's pregnant. The room tilted. She's what? Pregnant. 4 months along. She wants us to know that she and Daddy are planning to get married as soon as the divorce is final. I laughed. Couldn't help it. The sound came out harsh and broken. Well, good luck to her. She can plan to marry a convicted felon who's drowning in debt. Mama, there's more. She says Daddy told her you were the one who stole money from his firm, that you've been manipulating the accounts and he was about to turn you in when you preemptively demolished the house and called the police. That's a lie. I know it's a lie, but she believes it, and she's telling anyone who'll listen. Let her talk. The truth will come out in court. Will it? Terrell looked at me with my own eyes. Mama, what if Daddy tries to pin this on you? What if he says you were involved? Then we fight, with everything we have. But that night, alone in my borrowed room, I wondered if fighting would be enough. Walter had been planning his exit for months, maybe longer. What if he'd been planning to frame me all along? What if the affair, the divorce, even the embezzlement? What if it was all part of some larger scheme to escape with Kendra and leave me holding the bag? The next morning, I got my answer. Tamara called at 7 a.m. Vivian, we have a problem. Walter's lawyer filed a motion this morning. He's claiming you were a co-conspirator in the embezzlement scheme. He says you knew about the stolen money and helped him hide it. That's insane. I know, but they have evidence. Signatures on documents, bank transfers. Your name on accounts you claim you didn't know about. Because he forged my signature. He handled all our finances. Can you prove that? I thought about the years of signing papers Walter put in front of me. Sign here, honey. Just a formality. Trust me, it's fine. And I had. Because I'd loved him. Because I'd trusted him. No, I whispered. I can't prove it. Then we need to prepare for the possibility that you'll be charged as an accessory. Tamara, I didn't do anything wrong. I believe you. But Vivian, Walter's lawyer is good, and he's building a narrative where you're the mastermind and Walter's the victim. They're saying you demolished the house to destroy evidence, that you kicked him out and filed a restraining order to prevent him from accessing documents that would clear his name. Evidence? What evidence? They're claiming there were financial records stored at the lake house, documents that would prove you were involved in the embezzlement scheme. That's impossible. I demolished an empty vacation home. There were no documents. Can you prove the house was empty? I opened my mouth, then closed it. I'd gone up alone to oversee the demolition. The crew wouldn't have known what was inside. I hadn't taken photos of the empty rooms. This is insane, I said. He's framing me for his crimes. Yes, and unless we can prove otherwise, it might work. After I hung up, I sat on the edge of the bed, hands shaking. Walter wasn't just leaving me. He was destroying me, taking everything, my reputation, my security, my freedom. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You should have just given me the house. Now you're going to prison. Enjoy what's left of your life. You. I stared at the screen, rage building in my chest like a wildfire. He thought he'd won, thought he'd backed me into a corner with no way out. But Walter had forgotten something important. I was Vivian Harper, daughter of a postal worker and a schoolteacher who'd survived Jim Crow and raised their children to never accept defeat. I'd raised 2 children, buried both my parents, built a life from nothing. And I wasn't going down without a fight. I called Tamara back. What do we need to prove I'm innocent? Evidence that Walter acted alone. Bank records showing you weren't accessing those accounts. Proof that the signatures on documents aren't yours. Anything that establishes you weren't involved. Then let's find it. Vivian, it's not that simple. Walter's had 3 years to cover his tracks. Then we uncover them. There has to be someone who knows the truth, someone who can testify that Walter was acting alone. Who? I don't know yet, but I'll find them. I spent the next 3 days digging through every piece of paper I'd saved from our marriage. Bank statements, tax returns, investment documents, looking for proof that I'd been kept in the dark. Then, on Thursday night, I found it. Tucked in an old photo album, between pictures of our children's graduations, was a letter, dated 2 years ago. From Walter's firm's compliance officer to Walter, marked Confidential, Internal Review. Dear Mr. Freeman, this letter serves as formal notice that irregularities have been detected in client accounts under your management. An internal audit will commence on... The letter went on for 2 pages, detailing suspicious transactions and requesting Walter's cooperation with an investigation. An investigation that apparently never happened. I called Tamara immediately. I found something. A letter from Walter's firm. They knew about the embezzlement 2 years ago. They knew and didn't report it? Apparently not. Or if they did, nothing came of it. Vivian, this is huge. If Walter's firm knew about the fraud and covered it up, that changes everything. It means there's a paper trail we can follow, people we can subpoena. There's more, I said, pulling out another document I'd found. There's a contract here. Walter signed it 3 months before he asked for the divorce. A consulting agreement with some company I've never heard of. for $500,000. Let me see that. I could hear papers rustling on her end. Vivian, send me photos of everything you found. Right now. I did. Heard her gasp on the other end of the line. What? I asked. What is it? That consulting company, it doesn't exist. It's a shell corporation. Vivian, Walter wasn't just embezzling from his clients. He was money laundering. And this contract proves he was planning it months in advance. So he can't claim I was involved. I didn't even know about this company. Exactly. This proves premeditation and establishes that Walter was acting alone, creating financial structures you couldn't possibly have known about. For the first time in weeks, I felt hope bloom in my chest. But then my phone rang. Janelle. Mama. Her voice was shaking. Mama, you need to turn on the news. Right now. I grabbed the remote, flipped to the local news station, and there, filling the screen, was a photo of me. Underneath, the headline, Accountant's Wife Arrested in $1 Million Embezzlement Scheme. The reporter's voice cut through my shock. Vivian Harper, 72, was taken into custody this evening on charges of conspiracy to commit fraud and money laundering. Sources say she worked with her husband, Walter Freeman, to embezzle over $1 million from elderly clients. Kennedy burst into my room. Ms. Vivian, there are police cars outside. I looked out the window. 3 squad cars, lights flashing. Officers getting out, walking toward the house. My phone rang again. Tamara. Don't say anything, she said. Don't resist. Don't talk to anyone. I'll be there in 20 minutes. They're arresting me for something I didn't do. I know, but Vivian, we're going to prove it. You hear me? We're going to prove everything. The doorbell rang. Through the window, I could see news vans pulling up, cameras pointing at the house. My worst nightmare, playing out in real time. This is the Chicago Police Department. We have a warrant for the arrest of Vivian Harper. Kennedy squeezed my hand. I'll call everyone. The church, your kids, everyone. We've got you. I walked down the stairs on shaking legs, opened the door, let them put the handcuffs on. As they led me to the squad car, I saw neighbors gathered on porches, cameras flashing, a reporter shouting questions. Mrs. Harper, did you help your husband steal from his clients? Did you destroy the lake house to hide evidence? I kept my head high, kept my mouth shut, climbed into the back of the police car. But as we pulled away, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Standing across the street, watching with a small smile on her face, was a woman I'd never seen before. Young, beautiful, one hand resting protectively on her slightly rounded stomach. Kendra. And next to her, though he wasn't supposed to be anywhere near me, was Walter. They stood together, watching me get arrested for his crimes, and I realized the full scope of his plan. He hadn't just stolen money. He hadn't just betrayed our marriage. He'd orchestrated my complete destruction, and I'd played right into his hands. The holding cell smelled like disinfectant and despair. I sat on the metal bench, still wearing my church dress and grandmother's pearls, surrounded by women who looked just as scared and confused as I felt. First time? Asked the woman next to me. She was maybe 40, with tired eyes and a fading bruise on her cheek. Yes. What they get you for? Something I didn't do, she laughed bitterly. Honey, we all say that, but between you and me, I believe you. You got that look, like the world just dropped out from under you. It did. We sat in silence for a while. Then she said, My husband put me here too. Told the cops I was the one hitting him, when it was the other way around. System doesn't care about the truth, just who tells the better story. Before I could respond, a guard called my name. Harper, your lawyer's here. Tamara looked furious when they brought me to the consultation room. This is a railroad job, pure and simple. Walter's lawyer must have connections in the DA's office because this arrest happened way too fast. Can you get me out? I'm working on it. But Vivian, your bail is set at $500,000. I felt the floor drop out. I don't have that kind of money. Not anymore. I know, but we're going to fight this, every step. The evidence you found? It's our smoking gun. We just need time to present it properly. How much time? Your arraignment is Monday. 3 days. 3 days in jail. 3 days of humiliation. 3 days of Walter winning. There's something else, Tamara said gently. Walter gave an interview to Channel 7. It's airing tonight. What did he say? I haven't seen it yet, but his lawyer issued a statement saying Walter is a victim of domestic manipulation and financial abuse, that you controlled all the money in the marriage and he only just discovered what you'd been doing. I laughed. Couldn't help it. The sound echoed off the concrete walls, sharp and broken. He's good. I'll give him that. He's very good. He's desperate. Desperate people make mistakes. We just need to wait for him to make his. But waiting in a jail cell while your life burns down around you is its own special kind of torture. That first night, I didn't sleep. Just lay on the thin mattress, staring at the ceiling, wondering how everything had gone so wrong so fast. I thought about my mother, about what she would have done. She would have fought. She would have found a way. Saturday morning, Kennedy came to visit. They brought her to the visitor area, and we talked through a thick glass partition using phones that crackled with static. The church is rallying, she said immediately. Pastor Williams is organizing. We're going to make your bail. Kennedy, no, that's too much money. Ms. Vivian, do you know how many people you've helped over the years? How many meals you cooked for families in crisis? How many times you sat with someone in the hospital? How many kids you tutored? This community owes you, and we pay our debts. Tears burned my eyes. I can't ask people to risk that kind of money. You're not asking. We're offering. Sister Geneva is putting up her house as collateral. Mother Patricia is coordinating with the other churches. We're going to get you out of here. Why would they do that? Kennedy smiled. Because that's what family does. And Ms. Vivian, you're family to a lot of people. True to their word, by Sunday afternoon, the church community had raised my bail. Sister Geneva, Mother Patricia, and a coalition of women from 3 different congregations pooled their resources. Some put up property. Others emptied savings accounts. All of them believed in me. When they released me Sunday evening, there was a crowd waiting outside. Not reporters, though they were there too, but church members, neighbors, people I'd known for years holding signs that said, "We believe Vivian" and "Free Mrs. Harper." I walked out of that jail into a wall of love and support that nearly knocked me over. Sister Geneva hugged me first. Welcome home, baby. Now let's go prove these fools wrong. Monday morning, I sat next to Tamara in court, wearing a borrowed suit because I couldn't go back to my apartment without violating Walter's restraining order against me. Ironic, since he'd been the one standing across the street watching me get arrested. The courtroom was packed. Janelle and Terrell sat behind me, Kennedy and her family. Half of Grace Baptist, even my old supervisor from the bank, who I hadn't seen in 30 years. Walter sat on the other side with his legal team. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. He wouldn't look at me. But Kendra sat in the gallery, her pregnancy starting to show, watching everything with calculating eyes. The prosecutor, a young white man who looked fresh out of law school, presented their case. Walter had been stealing for years. Money had flowed through accounts in both our names. I'd signed documents. I'd benefited from the lifestyle the stolen money provided. The evidence clearly shows Mrs. Harper was not just aware of her husband's criminal activity, but an active participant, he concluded. We're asking the court to deny bail and remand Mrs. Harper to custody pending trial. Tamara stood. She was magnificent. Every inch the South Side lawyer who'd built her reputation on protecting black women from the system's injustice. Your Honor, The prosecution's case is built entirely on circumstantial evidence and the word of a confessed criminal who has every reason to lie. Walter Freeman is facing serious prison time. Of course he's trying to drag his wife down with him. It's the oldest trick in the book. She pulled out the documents I'd found. These are internal communications from Mr. Freeman's firm, dated 2 years ago, showing they suspected fraud and launched an investigation that Mr. Freeman alone was subject to. Not Mrs. Harper, just Mr. Freeman. She held up another paper. This is a consulting contract for a shell corporation that doesn't exist. Mr. Freeman signed it. His signature is verified. Mrs. Harper's name appears nowhere on this document. This proves Mr. Freeman was creating financial structures his wife couldn't possibly have known about. The prosecutor stood. Your Honor, Mrs. Harper had access to all marital accounts. She could have, but didn't, Tamara interrupted. We have bank records showing Mrs. Harper never accessed the accounts in question, never moved money, never made withdrawals. Her signature appears on documents, yes, but we have a handwriting expert prepared to testify that those signatures were forged. She paused, letting that sink in. But there's more. Mr. Freeman has been conducting an affair for over 18 months with a woman named Kendra Mitchell. Ms. Mitchell is here in the courtroom today. Every head turned to look at Kendra, who suddenly looked like she wanted to disappear. Mr. Freeman promised Ms. Mitchell that he would leave his wife and give her their vacation home, a property worth $2 million. When Mrs. Harper discovered the affair and realized her husband was planning to divorce her and take community property, she made a decision. She demolished the house. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. It was a dramatic decision, certainly, but it was legal. Her name was on the deed. She had every right to demolish that property. And, Your Honor, that decision is the exact opposite of what someone involved in embezzlement would do. Someone trying to hide money doesn't destroy $2 million in assets. They hide it. They protect it. Mrs. Harper's actions show she was protecting herself from a manipulative spouse, not participating in his crimes. The judge, an older black woman with steel-gray hair and sharp eyes, leaned forward. Ms. Robinson, are you suggesting Mr. Freeman is framing his wife? I'm not suggesting it, Your Honor. I'm stating it as fact, and I have proof. Tamara pulled out her phone, connected it to the courtroom display. A text message appeared on the screen, the one Walter had sent me from the unknown number. You should have just given me the house. Now you're going to prison. Enjoy what's left of your life. This text was sent to Mrs. Harper the night before her arrest, from an untraceable number. But, Your Honor, we traced it. It came from a phone purchased by Kendra Mitchell and used exclusively by Walter Freeman to communicate with his co-conspirators. The prosecutor jumped up. Objection! That text hasn't been authenticated. We have phone records, Tamara said calmly. We have the purchase receipt with Ms. Mitchell's credit card. We have testimony from the store clerk who sold her the phone. And we have metadata showing the text was sent from a location 3 blocks from where Mr. Freeman was staying. Furthermore, she continued, we subpoenaed Mr. Freeman's firm's records. They show that when the firm suspected fraud 2 years ago, they offered Mr. Freeman a choice: cooperate with the investigation or resign. He resigned. But he also signed a non-disclosure agreement agreeing not to disclose the investigation in exchange for the firm not filing criminal charges. That means Mr. Freeman has known he was under suspicion for 2 years. He had 2 years to plan his escape, 2 years to set up shell corporations, move money, and create a fall guy. And who better than his loyal wife of 43 years? The woman who'd trusted him with everything? The judge turned to Walter. Mr. Freeman, stand up. Walter stood slowly, his lawyer beside him. Did you send that text message to your wife? Your Honor, Yes or no, Mr. Freeman? I may have sent something similar, but did you set up the shell corporation shown in these documents? That was for tax purposes. Did you forge your wife's signature on financial documents? Walter's lawyer put a hand on his arm, but Walter shook him off. She knew. She had to know. You don't live with someone for 40 years and not know what they're doing with money. Actually, Mr. Freeman, you do. Especially when one spouse controls all the finances and the other trusts them implicitly. The judge looked at the prosecutor. I'm inclined to agree with Ms. Robinson. This case against Mrs. Harper appears to be based entirely on her marital relationship with the actual criminal, not on any evidence of wrongdoing on her part. Bail is continued, and I'm ordering the DA's office to do a more thorough investigation before proceeding. She banged her gavel. We're adjourned. The courtroom erupted. Janelle was crying. Terrell was on his feet, punching the air. The church members were praising God. Kennedy was hugging everyone in reach. But I just sat there, letting it wash over me, not quite believing it was real. Tamara squeezed my shoulder. That's round 1. Now we prepare for the real fight. Over the next 6 weeks, Tamara and her team tore Walter's story apart piece by piece. The handwriting expert confirmed my signatures were forged. Bank records showed I'd never accessed the offshore accounts. Walter's firm, facing their own liability for covering up the initial investigation, turned over thousands of pages of documents showing Walter had acted alone. And then came the breakthrough. One of Walter's former colleagues, a woman named Phyllis, who was 3 years from retirement, reached out to Tamara. I need to talk, she said, about what really happened. We met her at a coffee shop in the Loop. Phyllis was nervous, kept looking over her shoulder like someone might be watching. Walter came to me 2 years ago, she said, right after the firm confronted him about the missing money. He asked me to help him. Said he'd made some mistakes but could fix everything if I just gave him time. He convinced me to alter some records, make it look like there were accounting errors instead of theft. Why would you do that? Tamara asked. Because he said if the truth came out, it would destroy the firm. We'd all lose our jobs, our reputations, everything. And I believed him. I thought I was protecting everyone. But you weren't. No, I was just giving him more time to steal more money and set up his exit strategy. By the time I realized what he was really doing, it was too late. I was implicated too. So you stayed quiet. Phyllis nodded, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry, Mrs. Harper. I should have come forward sooner, but I was scared. I have grandkids to think about, but then I saw you get arrested. And I couldn't stay silent anymore. You don't deserve this. Will you testify? Tamara asked. Yes, to all of it. With Phyllis's testimony, the case against me collapsed. The DA's office dropped all charges and redirected their focus to Walter's accomplices at the firm. Walter's trial was set for 3 months later. In the meantime, the divorce proceedings moved forward. His lawyer tried everything, claiming I'd destroyed marital assets maliciously, that I owed him half the value of the demolished house, that I'd turned our children against him. But the truth was simpler. Walter had betrayed me, stolen from his clients, and tried to frame me for his crimes. No judge was going to reward that. The divorce was finalized on a cold November morning. 43 years of marriage ended with a signature. Walter was ordered to pay the full demolition bill. I kept the apartment, my retirement accounts, everything in my name. He kept his legal debts, his criminal charges, and Kendra. I heard she left him 2 weeks before his trial, claiming she'd miscarried and couldn't handle the stress. Janelle told me Kendra had actually gotten an abortion and moved back to Ohio. The pregnancy had been real, but her commitment to Walter had evaporated the moment she realized he was broke and facing prison. Walter's trial lasted 3 weeks. The evidence was overwhelming. Forged signatures, shell corporations, money laundering, and thanks to Phyllis's testimony, conspiracy to defraud. I attended every day, sitting in the back of the courtroom, not out of spite, but because I needed to see it through. Needed to watch justice happen. The jury deliberated for 4 hours, guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced him to 15 years in federal prison. He'd be 83 when he got out, if he got out. As they led him away in handcuffs, Walter looked back at me one last time. I didn't look away, didn't give him anything, just watched until the door closed behind him. Janelle squeezed my hand. "It's over, Mama." "Yes, baby, it's over." But endings are also beginnings. 6 months after Walter's sentencing, I stood on a piece of land in Wisconsin, the same 3 acres where our vacation house had once stood. The demolition company had cleared everything, left it as blank earth. Raymond stood beside me, along with Janelle, Terrell, and all 5 of my grandchildren. "You sure about this, Viv?" Raymond asked. "I'm sure." We broke ground that day on a new house. Smaller than the original, simpler, but mine. Built with money I'd saved, designed exactly how I wanted it. No expensive finishes or showpiece rooms. Just a comfortable, welcoming space with plenty of bedrooms for grandchildren and a big front porch overlooking the lake. The church women helped. Kennedy and her sons came up on weekends to paint. Sister Geneva supervised everything, making sure the contractors didn't try to cheat me. "This is how we do it," she said, standing in what would become the kitchen. "We take what was meant to destroy us and build something better." 8 months later, the house was finished. We held a blessing ceremony with Pastor Williams. Half of Grace Baptist showed up with covered dishes and folding chairs. We ate and laughed and praised God. My grandchildren ran around the yard, chasing each other down to the dock. Janelle and Terrell helped me hang family pictures on the walls, new memories, not old ones. That night, after everyone left, I sat on the porch with a cup of tea and watched the sun set over the lake. The same view I'd had before, but completely different. I thought about my mother, about the lessons she'd taught me. Never let anyone make you feel small. Fight for what's yours. And when someone tries to destroy you, you rise from the ashes stronger than before. Walter had wanted to take everything from me, my home, my dignity, my freedom. Instead, he'd lost everything. And I'd gained something more valuable than any house or marriage. I'd gained myself back. My phone buzzed. A text from Kennedy. "How's the first night in your new house?" "Perfect," I typed back. Absolutely perfect. And it was. The house I'd demolished had been Walter's dream, the symbol of what he thought we'd built together. But it had been built on lies. This new house? This was mine, built on truth, on the support of women who understood struggle, on faith that justice, though delayed, would come. I'd handed Walter that demolition bill thinking I was giving him what he deserved, a massive debt and a pile of rubble, but really I'd been freeing myself, tearing down the false life we'd built so I could construct something real. Walter had demanded a divorce, thinking he'd walk away with the house and his freedom. Instead, I'd smiled and agreed, then handed him consequences he'd never imagined. The house was gone, but I was still here, still standing, still building. And that was the truest revenge of all, not destruction, but survival, not bitterness, but joy, not dwelling on what was lost, but celebrating what remained. I took another sip of tea and smiled. Sometimes the best way to win is to let go of everything you thought you needed and discover what you actually want. And what I wanted was exactly this: peace, freedom, and a front porch with a view of the lake where I could watch the sun set and know that tomorrow it would rise again on a life that was completely, beautifully mine. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.